Shabbat Shalom. Yesh kochavim she'oram magia arza rak ka'asher hem atzmam avdu ve'enam. Yesh anashim sheziv zichram me'ir ka'asher hem atzmam enam od betochenu. Orot ele hamavhikim b'chashechat halayla hem shemarim la'adam et haderech. There are stars whose light reaches the earth only after they themselves have disintegrated and are no more. And there are people whose radiant memory lights the world after they have passed from it. These lights, which shine in the darkest night, are those which illumine for us the path. These words were written by Hannah Senesh, the young Jewish Hungarian poet who, on behalf of the British Army, bravely parachuted into Nazi-occupied Yugoslavia to rescue Jews. She was captured, tortured, and killed in 1944 at the age of 23. A Kochav herself, a shining star, Senesh taught us that even when a person's body has left this world, their memory continues to illuminate our lives. Like a distant star that guides our way, their memory forever inspires us. This week, we observed the Yortzeiten of 11 radiant Jewish souls whose lives were brutally taken on October 27th, 2018, at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. We remember Joyce Feinberg, Dr. Richard Gottfried, Rose Mallinger, Dr. Jerry Rabinowitz, Cecil and David Rosenthal, Bernice and Sylvan Simon, Dan Stein, Mel Wax, and Irving Younger. They were loving grandparents, brothers and sisters, partners, friends, and devoted shul goers. We remember their smiling faces, this group of mostly elderly Jews who rose early to make minyan and to welcome others to shul on Shabbat. The Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, teaches Yashkim Adam Levet Knesset Kedei Sheyimaneha Im Hasara Harishonim. A person should rise early to go to synagogue in order to be counted with the first 10. We remember their eagerness and their energy, their desire to be there for one another and to sanctify God's name in their home away from home. Their simple act of showing up week after week kept Yiddishkeit alive in their shul and forged their sacred bonds with one another. Beyond the synagogue, the light of their memory guides the way for us to fight white supremacy and anti-Semitism. We remain true to who we are. We uphold our values. Those members of Tree of Life had recently celebrated Welcoming the Stranger Shabbat, letting the world know that immigrants and refugees were welcome in their community. It was for that very act that the killer attacked them. To honor their lives, we show up just as they showed up, choosing love and faith over anger and fear. And we vote for leaders who take an unequivocal stand against hate and will fight to protect the dignity and life of every person. This week in Parashat Lech Lecha, our father Avram is worried about the future, and he confides in God. O Lord God, what can you give me? See that I shall die childless, since you have granted me no offspring. My servant Eliezer will be my heir. God comforts Avram, lifting him out of his worries and reassuring him that he will be the ancestor of a great nation. Despite his present circumstances, he will have a bright future and will leave behind a magnificent legacy. Vayetze oto hachutza. God took him outside and said, Habet na hashamayma, usfor hakochavim. Look toward the heaven and count the stars, if you are able to count them. So shall your offspring be. A midrash in Genesis Rabbah teaches that God physically brought Avram outside of his tent so that he could look up at the great sky. I imagine that when Avram looked up at the stars, he remembered his father Terach and all of his ancestors who came before him. Perhaps he saw all of us as well, the people who would one day call themselves his children. At that dark moment in their lives, God illuminates a path forward for Avram and Sarai, promising them that their current struggles won't have the last word. And there's a deeper level of meaning as well. The Midrash further teaches that God's words to Avram, Lech Lecha, go forth, mean leave behind your astrological speculations, the science of the ancient world. Read the classic Greek tragedies and you will find a world governed by implacable destiny. Human beings can do nothing to change their fate. Looking up at the vast sky, Avram might have thought his destiny was written in the stars. He would have no children, no descendants, and no future, no legacy or continuation of the sacred partnership he and God had created. Go forth, God instructs. Leave behind that way of thinking. Your future is not predetermined. It is for us to make. Together, we can create something new and better. After the devastating shooting at Tree of Life 2 years ago, and so much violence before and since then, we may have started to believe that such acts of hatred were our horrifying new normal. But Judaism teaches that human beings are always free to choose a different direction. Despair must never have the last word. We can always go forth to create something better. America's racist past and present do not have to dictate its future. On this Shabbat, like Avram, we look to the stars to guide our way forward. We remember Hannah Senesh, who used her brief time on earth to create beauty and serve others. We remember the lives of our brothers and sisters in Pittsburgh, who loved their warm and Hamish community and who loved the stranger too. We hold on to the radiant memory of Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, whose 25th Yortzeit falls next week. We recall a man of war who struggled to end the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians until his life was cut short when a Jewish extremist shot and killed him during a rally for peace in Tel Aviv. Enough of blood and tears, said Rabin, speaking to the Palestinian people. Enough. We have no desire for revenge. We harbor no hatred towards you. We, like you, are people who want to build a home, to plant a tree, to love, live side by side with you in dignity, in empathy, as human beings, as free men. We are today giving peace a chance and again saying to you in a clear voice, enough. Finally, on this Shabbat, we remember our family and our friends, those we have loved and lost, the lessons we have learned from them. May we hold their shining memories in our hearts forever, bright stars that guide us through the darkness. As we strive to honor those whose lives have ended, may their memories light our way to a better future.